In his autobiography, Benjamin Franklin tells a story about his friend George Whitefield, and about Whitefield's powers of oratory, especially when it came to raising funds for his favorite charity, a children's home, Bethesda Children's Home, that he was building in Georgia. Let me read to you what Franklin wrote. "I did not disapprove of the design, but as Georgia was then destitute of materials and workmen, and it was proposed to send them from Philadelphia at great expense, I thought it would have been better to have had the house built here and brought the children to it. This I advised, but he, Whitefield, was resolute in his first project, rejected my counsel, and I therefore refused to contribute. I happened soon after to attend one of his sermons, in the course of which I perceived he intended to finish with a collection, and I silently resolved that he should get nothing from me. I had in my pocket a handful of copper money, 3 or 4 silver dollars, and 5 pistoles in gold. As he proceeded, I began to soften, and concluded to give the coppers. Another stroke of his oratory made me ashamed of that, and I determined to give the silver. And he finished so admirably that I emptied my pocket wholly into the collector's dish, gold and all." Well, that's what Whitefield could do when he got to speaking and preaching. And that's what this brief talk is about the article, Pedlar and Divinity, George Whitefield and the Great Awakening, 1737 to 1745, written by Frank Lambert. The point that Frank Lambert makes in his journal article is that George Whitefield was ahead of his time in using what could be called commercial means to publicize and to fund his missions, his revivals, and his works of charity, such as the orphan house in Georgia. Part of that relationship that Franklin and Whitefield had was a financial one, a business one, because Franklin did a lot of printing for Whitefield, printing his sermons, printing his essays, printing advertisements, printing favorable notices, anything that could get publicity for Whitefield. So the friendship between Whitefield and Franklin was not merely a business one. There was something deeper there, and Samuel Rogal points this out in his article called "Toward a Mere Civil Friendship, Benjamin Franklin and George Whitefield," where he quotes Franklin saying in a letter to his brother, "He is a good man, and I love him." Now, Franklin was not the type of guy who would throw around those words, "I love him," to just anybody. So there was something, yes, there was a business relationship between Franklin and Whitefield, and it was profitable for both of them. But there was a deeper friendship, not based on religion, but based on just the fact that they liked each other and they enjoyed one another's company. In his article, Lambert talks about the genius behind Whitefield's use of publicity. He was a master of using media, printed pamphlets, the advertising that existed in that day and age. And Lambert quotes Whitefield as saying to his business agent this: "When will the children of light be as wise in their generation as the children of the world?" That comes from Luke chapter 16, parable of the shrewd manager. The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it's true that the citizens of this world are more shrewd than the godly are. I tell you, use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. In this way, your generosity stores up a reward for you in heaven. Whitefield took a lot of criticism. Even today, people criticize people who do similar things, who use what would be called the worldly art of publicity or using commercial means such as media. Whitefield believed in doing the same thing. He would do whatever it took that wasn't sinful to build a crowd, and he did that using media and publicity. And his reasoning is directly from Scripture, Luke chapter 16. Because Jesus himself said, look, use the wealth of this world, use the things of this world to make friends, to further the gospel. And that's exactly what Whitefield was doing. The last thing that I want to mention from Lambert's article is his discussion of how Whitefield went about raising money for the Bethesda Children's Home or orphanage in Georgia. Whitefield's goal was to make this orphanage self-sustaining so that he wouldn't have to keep having donations pouring in to fund the orphanage, but that it could pay for itself.
Well, according to Philippa Koch, in her journal article, Marketing Missions, Material Culture, Theological Convictions, and Empire in 18th Century Christian Philanthropy.
That idea didn't originate with him. That idea originated about 40 years before that in Halle, Germany, with the Pietists. August Franke, who had a huge orphanage and hospital and pharmacy and book publishing facility, and they made it self-sustaining by making profit from their publishing and from certain medicines that they produced in their pharmacy, and all of that money was then funneled into charitable work. And he wanted to model his orphanage in Georgia along those same lines.